Hey everyone, this is the Spiritual AF Podcast, and I'm your host, Judd Fink. On this podcast, you'll hear about my personal journey that led me on the path to spiritual growth, the journey of my guests, and the wisdom that we've gained along the way. It's important to me to put this podcast out in hopes that the stories contained in it resonate with the listener and assist people on their own path to healing and growth. I am deeply thankful to even have the opportunity to do this. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, guys. So let's go. And thank you so much for listening. Hi, everyone. This is Spiritual AF Podcast, and I'm here today with my guest, Marcus Crebo. He's the owner of The Cookery in Morton, Illinois, and he's just a hobbyist of psychology, philosophy, overall the search for meaning that we label as the spiritual journey. So yeah. How you doing today, Marcus?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, how did you just tell part of your story and how you journey through life and how you the way that you think about things.
Process things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always been a search for meaning. And I believe that one of my specialties is it's actually verified in my human design only within the last year and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a very analytical mind tied to a very creative mind. So my creativity, the way that I think and dream and whatever, is off the charts. However, sometimes the analytical side pulls it down, but on the other hand, it helps me piece it together and pull out the details and build it and stack it into something that makes sense. So I can filter out some incredible creative idea into hopefully something that's tangible and understandable to others. So I think that's kind of where I'm finding a place where the rubber meets the road, where it can actually be useful.
Yeah. Okay. Like balance.
Yeah.
In that, there's certain balance in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that, because the analytical mind does hold us back from letting go and letting the universe work.
Oh, absolutely.
And
all the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the anxiety that comes with that. Mm-hmm. And that's not being in overall that comes to not being in the moment, because we're trying to control whatever the outcome is of the task, that we're placing before us.
Yeah.
And
high ideals.
Yeah. High ideals. Right. And even in my journey, I'm a 3-5 generator in the human design. And so that's the martyr and the heretic. So I got to touch the fire to learn,
Yes.
It's what I have to do.
Right. No matter what.
That is why I've been through so much stuff in my life, and then for me, I didn't know about the human design until roughly a year ago or so. And also it was this explains a lot.
It does. It's actually, I avoided astrology forever just because what you know of it is in the paper on Sundays. You're like, oh, this is whatever. I'm not even going to get into that. But whenever I found natal charts and how it aligned with my character, it helped explain so many things that number of things you were like, yeah, this is me and this is who I am. But then there's a bunch of things you're like, ugh, I'm just a terrible person. I can't figure out how to fix this. And then you read it in your natal chart. It's like, this is naturally who you are, and you can accept it. And you're like, oh, this is a load off. And then human design took it a whole nother step, a whole nother level. This is very helpful. I haven't found a way to put it to use except to give me a more relieved feeling about who I am, moving forward. So kind of like you said, the anxiety can come down, and I can be in the moment and be more useful, hopefully.
Yeah, right. For me too, it is about being in the moment and not projecting and stuff. And how difficult is that to do, though, when it's hard to let go of that? It's one of the hardest things to let go.
Absolutely. And it's I don't even know how to answer that, because it's just, it's as simple as that. Whenever you mention in the moment, though, it's something funny I was just mentioning to my wife last night on the way home. I was thinking, in all the spiritual teachings and a lot of the things that I've read, they're like, hey, there is no time outside of physical reality. it's all happened at one time.
Yes.
But whenever you're in physical reality, you get to follow this, this path
Mm-hmm.
along, so you can witness the thing in full depth, in person. I'm like, this is our only chance to see all the minute detail and minutia as we travel from one end to the other, which has already happened, but it's our ability here to see it like in full depth if we are paying attention.
If we're paying attention,
Yeah.
you have to be aware. And I think that like that, back to the human design and, birth charts and stuff like that, it brought me to awareness, of who I am. And then I was able through that as well. And my, having to touch the fire and everything, brought me to to recognize patterns.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, that's one that I think goes along with my analytical mind. I'm seeing patterns everywhere all the time, and that really is also manifested into seeing quote unquote angel numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that the universe or source or angels or whatever you want to call it is always trying to communicate with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found if we actually set aside like, I am going to look for this, that you will get communicated.
Oh yeah,
abundantly.
Yeah, they'll make it clear to you that you're supported. You're good. Just keep going.
Yeah.
But it's our fears that hold us back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And even with all that, I still,
Oh yeah,
still have all the anxiety and everything, but it's
Mm-hmm.
at least you can manage it a little bit better.
Absolutely. And I think it is. It's very hard to become aware and aware. Period.
Yeah. There's different levels of awareness.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I don't believe I've ever made it anywhere near what, an actual awakened person, where they're at, but I assume there's a gradual level, where
Sure.
I'm definitely not as asleep as I was at the beginning.
Sure.
But I have, it's a nice puzzle to put together.
It is. It's perfect. It's perfectly imperfect.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, just like I think I mentioned, maybe even in a post or something, I don't know. But our bodies, they're perfect in all their imperfection. And I think that's the same for our lives.
Yeah, and I think also through the process of awareness as well, like you mentioned the body, and things that trigger you, and you go back in your memory, and like your body is a barometer for energy. You are energy. We're all energy.
Yeah.
And everything, and you can feel the vibrations coming off of someone else.
Oh yes.
And you can feel the vibrations of an environment. You can feel all these things, but you have to be aware that you're feeling these things.
Right, and in my case, I'd have come to an awareness that a lot of the feelings as an emotional, like my drive for human design is emotion. So I'm also very empathetic. So I could walk into a Walmart feeling amazing and walk back out like almost wanting to cry and I have no idea why, because I'm just absorbing energy from around me, or angry, or whatever it might be.
You're very empathic.
It's super hard until you realize that a lot of those emotions aren't even yours.
Yeah, it's recognizing that too.
Yes.
And man, I'm an empath as well, and I didn't know that I was taking on all these other people's stuff. And so when I'm in a coaching session as well, I need to remember to cut that off at the end. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And put up my protection even in the first place before going in, and being more conscious of that.
Yeah.
So that I don't take that on.
Yeah.
Because I do want people to get well, and I do place myself in their place, and you know what I mean?
It's tough. Yeah. And I haven't figured out how to do that or go to that level of protection, but besides thinking, I think I've picked up something where I can imagine a white sphere of protection around me, but beyond that, I haven't really.
That is literally
into it.
All you need to do. You can make it whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
You can call in whatever you want to call in for that protection.
Very cool.
It's just based on your beliefs, because we get to define everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. Right?
Like even outside of social construct, because that is what is actually constraining people, just the normal thought form of things. The standard.
Right, the social standards.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the social standards, which aren't social standards might not be true to one individual or many individuals, right?
But
a group.
But it is across the entire social spectrum. Everybody has something.
It is.
Even if it's different. Yeah, everybody's stuck to their social paradigms. And it's, I don't know, we need to get into that, but I've been working on a book that's still in the editing process, and that is all about breaking out of social standards and paradigms.
Yeah. And like what really that's what people that's constraining us because of what other individuals expect us to be and beliefs that we've placed on ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know. And when you're constrained and you want to be someone else, your true self, when you want to be your true self, you know, your authentic self, but you're scared to do it because of these social constructs or family system or whatever you're in, whatever your circumstance is, you know, it's holding you back from really, you know, serving your true purpose.
Yeah, and a lot of times I don't even think that it's like a warrior mentality. I think a lot of people just don't want to let their loved ones down, you know. Their loved ones have certain expectations, and so you kind of marry yourself to that because you don't want to let them down.
Of course, there's a lot of that. But okay, for example, like divorce, you know, and you have children or whatever, and that's like what holds two people together.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, actually, you can look at it from this aspect. It's a selfish thing where you stay with this person even though neither of you are happy, you know, and you're not allowing that other person to find that person, and you're not allowing yourself to find that person because you're scared, you know. But those kids are actually going to be much happier to see you both happy, you know. But it's that fear of the unknown.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And in the future, what you're going to step into.
Oh, yeah, that's the biggest one.
You know,
I've been definitely down that road and seen both sides, and even a different relationship that I was in, it basically dissolved that relationship because I knew that my partner could be much happier in a different direction, and I felt I also could be, and which led to like three years of, you know, just being by myself and trying to figure out who I was, and just tons of growth and what some might call the dark night of the soul. But I have seen it, you hold yourself back, and the person that you're with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's when you do let that person go to go find that is love. That is loving yourself, and that is actually loving that other person.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the truest form of love.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I have nothing but good, you know, vibes and wanting the best for that person. And, you know, it's hard because in a social standard, that's seen as a negative thing. It's a bad thing. You know, breakups and divorce, and they all have a stigma to them. But I think it's just part of natural growth.
I do too.
I've described it as we're all on a trajectory, and they're all of various arcs. And if you were to think of these arcs in space, they'll intersect at certain points in time. But if you continue, you're going to move away from each other as far as how you're compatible or not. And I think that's just a normal process.
I do too. And I'll speak for myself, my divorce and everything. Like, I did let her go. I did, you know, let her go find her person and all that stuff. And I want nothing but happiness.
Absolutely.
For her.
I think that's a very healthy perspective.
Yeah. And then what I got to learn about myself through that process, and then after divorce, you know, what I really got to grow in and everything, and like trusting the divine and trusting, you know, the letting go of things and how that's going to outcome, because I had to tell myself many times through that process, like, it's going to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
well,
it's going to be okay.
Isn't that the incredible part? Because you know that this is what should happen. And although there's anxiety, and you may even stave it off for a while, but you finally, whenever it happens, you make it happen. You're like, this is the right thing. It took me 3 years to work through the loss, the just the emotional like level of going down into the valley and coming back out. But I tell you what, one of the terms that a group of friends locally we kind of coined was successfully single. And we just felt really good about ourselves. We came, you know, like I said, through the valley and back out, just with a lot more knowledge about who we are and how we fit in the world. And I think everybody, I don't want to wish, you know, dark night of the soul on anybody,
Yeah.
but I think it's a powerful sense of self when you come out of that.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. You have to, that is, in solitude is where you actually learn the most.
Oh yeah.
You know, you get to tap into yourself.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. It's funny. For me, I was down in North Carolina when I went through this, and it was, I think, a year and 8 months, something like that. It felt like 10 years at the time, because every day, every minute, you're thinking and feeling and processing and going through what could have been, what should have been, what is to be, what can be, and just how can I be a better person, just trying to figure things out. And that 10-year period, which was really a year and 8 months, it was the hardest thing I've ever went through, but it's one of my most fond memories now. I relish that time. Almost kind of, I don't miss it, but I almost do.
Yeah. Well, it's probably because how much you were learning.
Yes.
In there.
I loved that part of it and the connection that grew out of that.
Well, that makes sense because you're, analytical mind as well. Right? Yeah. I've been very, what I got to step into was my true self, like my spiritual self, and like accept my gifts, because when my marriage, I wasn't able to do any of that. Like I've been, connected, but like throughout that process too, I mean, prior to getting divorced or even starting that process, like I was never allowed to like embrace it,
Yeah.
And that is my purpose. My purpose is to use it, to help other people.
Absolutely.
And I was a mechanic. I'm, working on buses and stuff. And like, this is not, and I knew the whole time, like, this is not what I'm supposed to do, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
At this point, like it brought a paycheck, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And it was stable and everything. But then I was actually given the opportunity because of COVID, that, hey, there's no penalty if you leave right now. And right. I was there for a long time and invested a lot in it. So it was just like, okay, like I'm just going to do this. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going to be okay.
No, that's perfect.
And it's just that trust. And then even in that process, like there were times I'm not putting in the work because like imposter syndrome. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
That's why my book isn't done yet.
Yeah. Like you think that like, can I do this? Am I good enough? Well, yeah, you just got to do it.
Yeah. Right.
You just got to step into it. Mm-hmm. And there's been things like that I've learned throughout the process and things that I've come back to as well when I was going through separation, divorce, actually when I got this place, where I didn't even know that I was doing these things spiritually, but I was doing them and I was owning every bit of it, like spiritual alchemy and, and breath work. And that's how I was connecting. I didn't know it was breath work. I never done any breath work in the past or anything, but it brought me to that place.
Yeah.
And then here over a month ago, I don't know, there's a Mira Spa in East Peoria, and it's a spiritual place, Reiki and all these other things.
Yeah.
And they had an event called the Awakened Fair, and 2 days before I talked to the owner of it, didn't know her prior to this or anything, I got in a message in meditation, like, you're going to be doing breath work. And so I talked to her about, setting up there, putting my services out there, getting a little booth and stuff. Yeah. But then the conversation turned into, obviously, we talk about my life and all that.
Sure.
To get to know me.
Yeah.
And then she says, our breathwork people that usually, do this fair aren't going to be able to make it this year. Do you know anything about breathwork? And I'm like,
that's how it works.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I do, as a matter of fact, but like I've never done a workshop on it or conducted a breathwork session or done anything like that, but I just did it. And there were, I don't know, 15 people in there or something like that. And everyone, like, it went so well. Everyone was
awesome.
And I was asked at the end of it, like, how long have you been doing this? I was like, actually, that's the first one I've ever done.
Good for you.
So
you stepped in and did it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Just do it, because you're never going to know if you don't.
Oh yeah. I totally agree with that.
And you're just going to wonder. Oh, yeah. That's why I didn't stay at my job. I was just going to sit there and wonder.
Oh yeah.
The whole time. What could be? Who am I? Who really am I?
Oh, I think, again, so many of us are stuck in that. Everybody's got a dream. Everybody's got a deeper feeling, whether it's anything they express socially or not. But we're all tied into that comfort zone where it's only fear on the outside. There's dreams, but there's also fear, and a lot of us have been stuck in that. I know that I worked for a corporation for 30 years, and there was exciting points, and there were obviously profitable points, but there was probably 5 to 7 years of, I know there's something better I could be doing, but this is a pretty good paycheck, so this is what I'm doing. But I've also almost always had a side business or a side project, just because I have always had interests outside of just making a paycheck.
Yeah.
Trying to provide value in some form.
Yeah, and that's what the purpose is, right? To provide value. Yeah. When you give people value, those things come back to you.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Because it's appreciated. It's that energetic exchange. And like that's what draws things to you. So what holds us back is the fear, but fear is an illusion. It's something you're creating in your mind. As long as you step forward into the things that are exciting to you, like that things that you want to build, and as you take those steps forward, they show you the universe shows you like, hey, you're doing the right thing. You're doing, and you're removing those self-limiting beliefs at the same time, because you're actually creating a pattern within yourself throughout that process.
It's just like practice or muscle memory. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And you don't even know that you don't even have to know that you're doing it.
Right.
It's literally just going through the process and trusting, because whether you're trusting or not doesn't matter. You're just doing it, and that's how anyone gets good or confident at anything.
Oh yeah. And I would say that I was thinking about something similar to this the other day, and how, kids who do more bold things as children, kind of get there sooner. Maybe they don't go on the same path, maybe they don't go on a spiritual path, but they can get comfortable breaking out of the comfort zone or whatever easier. I feel like I'm a late bloomer just about everything. And I see for a long time I stayed within a comfort zone in various forms, whether it was a marriage or a job or where I lived or whatever. So I definitely think that it's something, like you said, you can learn, you grow just by doing it. But sometimes we pick it up later than others. And that's okay, as long as you're picking it up, I think.
Yeah, and even if, you're stepping into something that isn't necessarily for you, as long as you're doing it, guess what's happening? You're learning.
Getting experience.
You're getting experience, and you are learning. What you do or do not want. Yeah. What you're willing to accept.
Yeah, for sure.
For yourself as well.
And it's just, I think the business that we purchased back in October is a perfect example of that. There's tons of fear and unknowns to go along with buying a business, but there's also positives and potentials. And one of the things I love about entrepreneurship is you have so many more levers and options to make it grow, to make it your own, where if you leave yourself in that little comfort zone of a job, there's only so many things you can do, and part of them is trying to move up the ladder or work more hours or get your boss to like you or whatever. You can't add online services, you can't add coupons, you can't add video subscriptions, you can't do anything with your job.
Yeah, it's very constrained.
Yeah. So although there's a lot of fear in jumping into something crazy and exciting, it's so worth it, like you said, just for the learning purpose, I think.
And here's the other: we always want to know, like what the outcome is. Yes. We always want to know what the outcome is, but really, like, there's beauty in not knowing. It's perfection in not knowing. Because you're never gonna know. It's impossible to actually know, because there's all these different timelines based on the decisions that you make in that process.
Right.
You can go this way or that way.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or this way or this way or this way.
All roads lead to the right location.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't matter what you choose, because you do get to learn through that process. So no matter what you choose, you are given the opportunity to take another direction at any point, because you learned from this.
Yes.
Or
Absolutely.
this, or whatever happened.
Yep. And if you stay still, you don't get those
What
options.
are you doing?
Yeah. You don't
Nothing
get
is
any
going
of
to
those
happen.
options. Yep. Exactly.
And as you walk this path too, I'm not well versed in whatever XYZ. This person will come in like, hey, I know all about this stuff.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want some help?
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's amazing.
Yeah. As long as you're just doing it. And,
Yeah, I think I heard a saying a couple years ago. How did that go? The universe, I think the universe offers like blessings to those who are already on the dance floor. Or it was said a little bit better than that, but basically you get yourself out on the dance floor, you get out there and start doing something, and then opportunities will come. Just kind of like what you're mentioning.
Yeah, and I found too in my process as well, like I've been very hard on myself, like because of not seeing like immediate results.
Oh yeah.
Right? And like the start to the path of enlightenment is to lighten up on yourself.
I've never thought of it that way. Lighten up.
Yeah, because like that is letting go. It really is. Like it's okay. I'm sitting right where I'm supposed to be. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think one of the things that that I've written about that the hope is that it will bring more ease into this whole process, but people have to be able to wrap their heads around it. And my perspective, right or wrong, is that it's something that you probably heard the term like soul journey, but I think of, our path is never ending. It's, in my opinion, currently, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, thousandfold, whatever it might be, of learning, experiencing, and enjoying the process, enjoying being in the moment, because we don't have to be here. We choose to be.
We choose, yeah.
And each one of those things, like in this tiny little life that may be Marcus Crebo, like it can go any number of ways, and wherever it ends, it's like success. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Did I own a business? Did I work in a garage? Did I, copy Mother Teresa? There's all positives and negatives to learn from, but in the end, you just learn from it and you go to the next one, or just keep on going. I think it's just a trajectory forever of growing and learning and getting closer to source, maybe, if that's
whatever you call it
wants to use.
Yeah, you can define that however you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot to say there, right? We can talk about that all day.
Oh yeah.
But
I think it puts perspective on the day-to-day social life. If you think of the big picture, then there is no wrong way to do it.
Correct. I'd encourage people to use their imagination and everything and dream big, because like whether you're playing small or playing big, it doesn't matter. But the bigger you dream, that's visualization. That's that's part of manifesting.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't have to happen the way that you visualized it, but it's going to happen in some way.
Yes.
As long as you just go.
Yeah. I mean, if you're dreaming 200 times bigger than you ever think is possible, and you get 70% of the way there, that's way further than
you were.
Than you think you would have gotten.
Yeah. And what's the rule? Have you ever heard the rule of 100? And that's 18 minutes a day of consistency in whatever.
I've not heard that.
And so that's through 365 days. It's only 18 minutes per day that you dedicate to something, and you are actually creating these habits, and that's more than 95% of people do. To build yourself up.
Very interesting.
And it's only 18 minutes. So imagine doing 3 different things for 18 minutes. That's an hour. It's just under an hour.
Right.
So if you dedicate yourself to 1 hour a day of some construct, to build yourself up and show up for yourself, that is better than 95% of people, because they're not you don't even have to be organized. It's just showing up for yourself.
There's
and
no consistency.
There's no
typically,
consistency.
Yeah. That's consistency is huge, and that is definitely not one of my strong suits. But I totally understand where you're coming from, and I definitely see the value of it. I mean, in fact, thinking of it just from a physical perspective, I think it's hilarious that all we really need to do to stay healthy or fit is work out about 3 times a week for 1 hour. So 3 hours out of an entire week is all it really takes. Yet I go through phases like right now. I haven't really worked out since I bought the business in about 5 months. I've worked out here and there a little bit, but between 2015 and 18 or 19, I mean, I've worked out more than I ever had in my life, and I was as fit as I had ever been at like 46 to 48 years old. Just working out 3 times a week for 1 hour. That's all it takes. It's kind of like the consistency you're talking about. 18 minutes a day is so minute compared to the amount of time we have available.
So my current is like reading and writing and gaining knowledge, you know, and like the things that I read too, man, I'm definitely reading the things I need to be reading in the moment. Just what they're showing, you know, I'll crack open a book and it's like, bam, okay, this is exactly what I've been thinking about. Thank you.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
And like those are the synchronicities, the signs that like, hey, you're doing the right stuff. And you can feel it.
Oh yeah.
Too when you're doing it, you know.
Yeah, I definitely felt it more whenever I was in that single moment. Obviously, whenever you get back into, in my case anyway, like back into relationship and owning a business, there's so many things on the plate. It's I need to get up early in the morning to take time for myself to be able to get that connection just between me and, you know, the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's just if I get up at the same time everybody else does, it's just chaos from the beginning till the end.
Till the start, yeah.
And it's all amazing. It's all stuff that I love and want to be part of. But you can get carried away without focusing on, you know, yourself, refilling your cup and being connected.
You got to be good on your own.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
And like we get so caught up in trying to control what other people are doing.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't have any control over it
Right.
at all. So that's only putting stress on yourself, you know, instead of just letting that all you can do is guide.
Oh yeah.
Give advice where advice needs to be given, and it's up to that person whether they're going to accept it or not.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just a seed that we're planting, you know, and you just have to be okay with that.
Yeah. And but you want this person to succeed or do better, you know what I mean? So you're very much tied to it, but you really can't be.
No.
You know?
Yeah. You have, there's no way for us to tell where other people are at on their path, even when they tell us. I don't, because of social standards, social accepted behaviors, and I think most people don't even talk about their real truth to people in general, unless you do find a connection with somebody and you have a nice one-on-one. I find that I have the best conversations one-on-one. I can do group settings, and I'm good in teams, but it's the closeness and connectedness that I feel from a one-on-one conversation far outweighs what I feel in a group or, you know, just in society in general. I mean, I think many people, especially on this path probably, you feel like an alien walking around like I actually considered it like, you know, sometimes I don't think being a ghost would be much different than the way we walk around society these days. Nobody looks at you, you know, they're on their phone or whatever, don't pay attention to you. Unless you make a conversation, there probably won't be one.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
it's a lonely place
is.
in normal society if you don't make your way and make connections.
Yeah. You have to go seek them out. And those people will find you.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the vibrational level that you're at, you know, or similar or right there.
Yeah.
You know, and the people that you need to meet to raise their vibrational level, you'll meet them.
Oh, yeah.
Too, you know. And like you said, in the one-on-one conversations, that's where it comes from.
Oh, and it's huge. You know? I found so much value in finding, like you said, the people that you're aligned with, and then just the conversations that we can have. It's just a deep richness that gets added to life, I think.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, it's that connection, and then like I love the exchange part of it. You know, it's like just perfect because that person, you're learning from that person and they are learning from you.
Absolutely.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And it's so easy, you know, when you're in that moment talking to whomever.
Yeah, the limited distractions, you're both focused on each other. And I mean, this is a perfect example, but even just, I know that you've had like Kim Hayes on your podcast. You know, we've had discussions. She's been very helpful. Other people, Dr. Kabir here in town, we've had a ton of discussions on subjects such as these. And it's just it's something that you can be so grateful for, you know, just to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, what we find in general society. And that, I think, is why you're here doing what you're doing and why I've written a book and why I try to do some of the things I do is to try to get people to see there is so much opportunity and benefits by stretching outside of the standard norms.
Mm-hmm. There is, but it's scary.
It's very scary. That's why that's why it's work.
Yeah,
yeah,
it is work.
Sure.
But that is, you know, showing up for yourself and just being like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be okay.
Oh, yeah.
Like whatever people judge you for is up to them. You have no control over that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so really, who cares?
Yeah. It's funny because you know that. It's easy to say, but my whole life, especially as a young child, I still today will make decisions based on how someone else is going to feel. And, you know, and sometimes that's a good thing if I'm with somebody that I care about and I want them to have a good day or feel good or whatever. I'm pretty neutral. I'm like, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. If you want to listen to that, that's fine. You want to watch that? I'm okay.
Yeah.
Unless there's a few things that, you know, I am particular about that I may not care for. In general, I'm like, what do you want to do kind of deal. But does stem back to this people-pleasing that I think we're all, you know, kind of driven towards.
Of course. There's nothing wrong with caring for yourself. Like I've heard before, like if you actually listened to your higher self, like in people pleasing, they would sound like a jerk.
Right. I agree.
You know,
yeah.
Like instead of like going towards that, well, that's something inside of ourselves too. The people pleasing is we're not fulfilled in ourselves, you know, something that we're seeking outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. Yeah. You're trying to mimic it or develop that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some reason why you're people pleasing. I'm not saying that the whole point is to serve and to help each other, you know, but going out of your way, like on a consistent basis, you know, to help is a totally different thing. And it depends on what it actually involves.
Well, and I
as
think,
well.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And I think if it's holding you back or,
of something you need to do for yourself.
Then I think it needs to be reviewed and, you know, figured out, is this really what I need to be doing? Because, like you said, if you were listening to your higher self, there is a directive and a direction where it doesn't matter. It could be 10 different directions, but the higher self's going to be like, we're doing this. This is how this is going to go. Here we go. Do this now. Do that.
Yeah.
It kind of, I've never thought of this before, but the way that they personify Steve Jobs, I think, not that I'm trying to raise him up any higher than he probably already has been, but I could see he's just very single-minded. We're getting this done. This is how I'm going to do it. And I could see that that's probably how the higher self, if it wasn't filtered through all of our social, physical anxieties and interactions, that would be very direct.
It would be very direct. And that's, you know, I've had to be very direct you know what I mean? Like to set a boundary. Boundaries are, oh my gosh, hard to set at times because of the people pleasing and stuff. But like, that is actually the best thing you can do for yourself, you know, because that person's not going to know. Yeah. Unless you actually say what you need to say. Yeah. You know,
and
you don't have to say things in a hurtful way either.
Oh, no.
You know,
no. Other people are much better at that than me. I'm one of those, you know, from the astrological chart, I'm a Pisces. And you know, you see these things as jokes or whatever. I'm like, that's funny. It's like, well, that's really close. But it's like, yep, super easygoing. And like, oh, now he's a jerk. You know,
Yeah.
It's like flip flop.
Well, I think we all have those moments. All of us do. I'm a Scorpio, and so like, my tongue, you know what I mean, can be very like,
Yeah, my wife's a Scorpio, and
yeah,
I have a few Scorpios in my life, and actually I get along really well with Scorpios and Leos. So
yeah. No,
Here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, exactly. Like,
can I drink this?
yeah, that's of course you can. That's why it's there. But birth charts, human design, whatever, astrological charts, all these different things that we are, like, to give us guidance and acceptance for ourselves and explain things to us, those are actually there as a tool, to recognize these things and to actually ascend them once you recognize
I agree.
what those are.
It doesn't lock you in.
It doesn't
it's
lock you in.
It's a foundation that you're starting from.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you don't have to sit here and say, this is what I am.
Right. I think I've heard a lot of people do that. Like it's almost victim mentality. This is who I am.
Yeah.
This is all I can ever be because this is, I'm a whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's the case.
It's not.
We're all empowered to grow from that point.
Yeah, absolutely. We're given the opportunity to grow from it instead of using it as an excuse and saying, well, I'm a Scorpio, so, I can be a big dick.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, it's meant to learn from. It's not there for any other reason.
Well, and it also offers a niche experience, a niche guidance that no one else can offer than you as an individual, or that person as an individual, or me as an individual.
Absolutely. That's your superpower.
We have just this mix that can't be copied.
Yeah. That's why everybody is their individual selves.
Yes.
That's why we're all here to learn about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And, also here to help each other in the process, like this exchange.
Yeah. Well, and what cracks me up about that, because I don't have all the answers, but it makes me wonder. And I think it was actually a Stuart Wilde book that I read back in the day. And he's like, everybody's here to go through their path, whether that's a train wreck or whether that's, living on a beach in luxury. They came here to do that. So don't interfere with their path unless they ask for help.
Yes.
So he was like, we're not pushing anything on anybody or whatever. And I totally agree with that. And part of the reason that I've kind of come to that conclusion, it's to have that bigger mindset. And I'm just kind of going off on a thought.
Go ahead.
Experiment here. But
yeah.
If you are a higher self and attached to source or whatever, and you're an individual soul living through these individual lives, here's a point where I forgot the word that I was going to say.
No. So okay.
We were just talking, remind me what we were just talking about.
We were talking about the higher self, and like letting people go on their path and not be getting in the way of that.
Yes,
like trying to be invited into it.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry. So where I was going with that is, if we already are source. We already know everything. We already have experienced everything, and we're going through this. If we are everything, then all these individual things could almost be considered maybe entertainment, or possibly additionally looking for new things that have never been understood by us or discovered in this particular configuration. But so the whole idea of we're here to help each other who's already source, who already knows everything, and we're doing this on purpose. So the help is a little
vague
and funny to me. Like, I can help this person, but this person's going through this because they chose to, and at the end they're going to come out and they're going to be divine. No matter what I do, no matter what they do.
That's great. Yeah. Well, you have to be asked.
Yes.
You have to be invited to give assistance. It's not just something, that you can interject.
Right. I totally agree.
And because they're not going to hear you anyways.
That's absolutely true.
So you wasting your breath on something or taking action on something is just,
Mm-hmm.
stress on you. That
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was done.
I was just going to say that I think what that boils down for me then, what help is just allowing others to see that there are opportunities and you can, you don't have to be stuck. And if you need a hand, maybe like, I'm not sure what to do here, maybe give them a hand here or guidance or just help them feel okay about it. The ideas, and you've probably been through this, I know for the 3 years that I went through that really deep time of connection, it was all about keep going, just keep going. Don't give up, just keep going.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to make this dark, but I had said numerous times, like, in that period, it was so dark that I said, there's a reason that I don't keep guns around the house.
Yeah. No,
You have to keep going. And
I've been there.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just that hard, but it's, again, I remember that time more fondly than just about any other time. So, because I did keep going, and that's where I think the real hope is just keep going, and the opportunities abound if you push beyond your comfort zone.
It really is, because the possibilities are endless.
Yes.
You know, anything, literally anything is possible. You know, you can't be limited in what you think.
I actually believe, and I've written a little bit about this, it's hard to wrap scientific structure to it, but I don't think that makes it not exist. I just think we haven't gotten to that level yet. All of science is building how to measure, how to find, and I think, you know, we are getting closer. Spirituality,
We
and
actually
science is
very much
getting
are.
very close.
Yeah.
But there's still things that science can't measure yet, and that's okay. It's a process. But with that said, I think that many of the magical claims, you know, that are made in old spiritual books or just old stories, I think there are probably a lot more truth to those than people
I totally agree.
give credit.
I totally agree with
I
that.
think anything is possible. Yeah.
I mean, I've had many spiritual experiences in my life that, like, if I told to someone, like even me talking on here or whatever, telling a story, you know, that if I told to someone who was not open to it, they'd be like, "You're nuts."
Exactly.
You know. But you know what? The most delusional people and the most original minds are never understood anyways.
Yeah.
You know. So who cares?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
but you have to survive though in the social, you know, norm. Like, so back in the day, you didn't want to get kicked out of the village, so that's where that people pleasing came from. You know, I have to fit in because if I get kicked out of the village, I'm going to starve to death and die. I need the protection of the village. And these days, it's not quite so much, but I think a lot of us, you know, fear rejection or worse, getting thrown in jail, or, you know, being what do they call that whenever like on the internet they shut somebody down
for whatever they're saying,
Yeah.
like restrict them or whatever. I don't know.
well, not, you know, it's people like whatever. Anyway.
Oh, like cancel culture?
Cancel culture.
There you go.
It's like, you know,
Yeah.
just social standards are something that I think I've learned to gingerly, maybe tactically walk through, while still finding those who I can connect with closely. But unfortunately, that makes the growth of all of life on the planet much slower than it could be if we could just be open about everything.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to be a martyr, sometimes you need to be, I guess, pay attention to who your audience is. Yeah.
Yeah. And your audience will find you,
Oh, yeah.
you know, as long as you're out there doing your stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, your people will find you. And the cancel culture thing is just, you know, insane, because it's all about control and controlling, you know, oh, this hurt my feelings. Well, you're allowing that to hurt your feelings. You're the one listening to it. You have a choice to not listen to it.
Right.
You know, and you are the one engaging in this as well.
Right.
You know, but they're not aware of that.
Yeah, well, and the thing that I think is the most hurtful for all of us is the lack of open-mindedness. The closed
Letting people be
mind.
who they are.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how, you know, the social norms are built in. I mean, they are designed And for one time, I'm sure back in ancient history, it was for our, ability to stay alive and for our health. But today, it's much more of a restriction than a benefit, I think. In fact, there is a part in the book where I talk about generation, and I think that as we go through life, say you grow up, from a little kid up to an adult, and when you were a kid, there are all these things put in place, and maybe you found maybe just a niche, an ability just to twist what was already there, and now it's yours, and you feel ownership for it, and some little punk comes in, and you're like, you're not doing it right. And there's so many people, older generations, are protecting what was important to them as opposed to being open to growth. We're going to continue to grow. All of society is going to grow and change no matter what. So why don't we promote it with some sense of, taking care of people? Let's not just rampantly like, oh yeah, we should go bomb everybody. No, that's
No.
Let's control. Put some morals to it, and that could even be a slippery slope. But if there's even just some guidance by the mature generation, but an entire open-mindedness, and maybe even challenging and maybe even rewarding the growth of the youth to think outside the box and continue to grow and continue, I think we could really increase the rate at which we improve as a society if we were more proactive.
Well, I agree. And you see like a lot of younger people not doing things the way that things have been done, for generations before. And I think that's great. That's growth. That is growth.
Absolutely.
It's in front of your face. Like, look at, these younger kids, doing what they do online. I mean, there's 14-year-olds that are billionaires.
Oh, yeah.
Just because they did this thing and now they're famous for what they did. And like, I mean, it's just amazing, and they're out there doing their thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's you can see it. Anybody can see this in their own life. If you're, say, start a new job and you walk in, you're like, this is okay. I'm starting to figure this out. Like, why are you guys doing that? That's because that's how we always did it. Well, why are you doing that? Why don't you do this? No, we don't do it that way because this is how we always did it. And
there was a lot of that in my old job.
All of these opportunities, and if we squash it, there's no growth. But if you like, what? Let's sit down and have a chat. What kind of ideas do you have? What? Maybe we can help you, help us. Kind of thing. I think, in general, anybody can see kind of what you're saying. You're saying it in a big picture, but I think we can see it even in the tiny picture. Anybody new coming into life or into society or into the internet, they're going to see new opportunities that maybe you or I or anybody missed.
Absolutely. The opportunity, it's being open to seeing it.
Yeah.
Like, instead of trying to constrain it, though, because of what you think it should be.
Yeah, and then not be jealous because other people are succeeding. Yes.
Everyone's on their own path, man. Nope. I don't care what anyone has done. I really don't. Everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves acceptance. Yeah. And the dark things that people do are because of, things that have happened to them.
Yeah, like a continuation.
Generational curses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like things like ADHD and addiction issues are not, hereditary. What it is based on trauma and generational trauma.
Yeah, well, and it's just handed down from
down.
Mom and dad to the next.
Yeah.
To the children who become mom and dads, and it just keeps going and going.
Yeah. And then through the growth process of, working on that stuff, you are, and showing up for yourself in whatever process you have for yourself, once you start doing it, you do start healing. You do start changing your DNA and your beliefs about yourself.
I love that. Yeah. Changing the DNA. What I see it's kind of been one of my drivers, because whenever I had kids, I was a kid.
Sure.
We had my first son when I was 21, and I really didn't feel like I was a mature human until I was about 27. So, and our second daughter was born when I was 25. So they got to experience life with a child as as a parent, you know?
Sure.
So one of my drivers has been to just try to lead by example. Like, okay, he used to be like this, and now he's put in all this work, and he's he's always working towards, like, just being, you know, self-improvement and being better and being closer or whatever that might be. But I think besides the internal changes for yourself, you're also an example and an empowerer for those who see what you're doing. Even if it's
Absolutely.
not a discussion, even if they just see you. I think it's super powerful.
It is. It's allowing them to see what's possible.
Exactly.
You know, and it's just beautiful in that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's allowing them to see that it's possible to step into healing and growing and all of these other things.
Absolutely. But we can also lead by example.
In a negative way.
Exactly. And not show any growth or show regression, you know, back into even worse behaviors. So it's profound. And
actually, you know what, that goes back to like the divorce part, where letting the other person go and find their person, and what those kids that are involved in that divorce are actually going to witness when that person finds their person.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's exactly, you know.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think you don't see it as with everything, you don't see it in the midst of it, but you see it as, you know, time passes and there's the destruction, but then there's the reconstruction. And once they get to see the reconstruction, like, oh, this is makes so much sense.
And that time period can be as long or as short as you wish it to be.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you took these steps forward to separate from an individual, but you get to grow in the process.
Yes.
You know, and if that's up to the other person how they're going to react.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? You have no control over that, but you can tread water lightly and, you know, accept and
be respectful.
And be respectful. Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
In fact, I had mentioned this. What term did I use? I think just showing up as a, you know, respectful human being in no matter what happens is hugely important, especially if there are kids involved.
Well, they're going to witness that.
Grow tremendously from seeing the lack of engagement into negativity and just being a respectful human being regardless of what's going on. That's huge. And I try to do that. Of course, you know, I've got my 5 to 10% of the time that doesn't work out the way I'd like it to, but I think it's still something worth striving for.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's no reason at all why two people can't get along that were in a marriage or in a relationship that have children. Yeah. There's no reason for it.
No.
You know.
And it all comes down
no matter what happens.
Emotions and social standards and social expectations. People feel, I know that whenever I was separated and on my own, I was actually in North Carolina on my own. So I wasn't, I wasn't just separated. I was alone. Like I was in a state I had never been in before by myself. And it was probably the most alone I ever felt. But it was perfect for the connecting. However, what I did sense, and it was internal, was that when I'd go to social areas, a grocery store, a restaurant, or whatever, I just had this sense that, you know, people like, oh, I wonder what's the matter with that person. Like, they must be broken, or they're not exactly right because they don't have a mate, you know, or whatever. And a lot of that's internal, right? But I'm sure that there was some people that probably were thinking that. But I think anybody who goes through coming out of a relationship and into that single stature, they think that. They think they're being judged because they're not with somebody, because that's ever since I was born. My kids, everybody, it's like, yeah, you're going to grow up and you're going to get married and, you know, you're Prince Charming and all this stuff. And I have tried to teach my kids that, you know, if you can be in a wonderful relationship, that's awesome, but you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet and be the amazing person that you are with or without a relationship. That is, to me,
and that's what makes it stronger.
An extra, like that's a bonus if you can make a relationship work. But that's not. I don't think that's where the priority or where your importance or value comes from.
Right. Well, you're talking about codependency.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about.
And it's a social standard. It's not just a psychological description. It's a social standard. It's an expectation. At least
it
in
is.
my opinion, it is.
It definitely is. It's so normal. You know, how often does a relationship exist where it's not in some forms codependent?
It's tough. Yeah. Even going through all the lessons that I've learned over the years, and how successfully single I thought I was, being back into a relationship, there's so much more that I've had to learn again, or add on to what I'd already learned. And there is still a certain amount of codependence.
Sure.
We work towards being as supportive for each other in an independent way as possible, but there's also you love to be together, and you know all that stuff. So it's a fine line to have the growth and be aware, and not still have some codependency in there.
I think you're exactly right. And I think of your counterpart, it's accepting them with all of their parts and exactly for who they are, and not trying to control any of that.
Yes.
And letting them be exactly who they are is actually loving them.
Yeah, that'd be perfection. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is very hard, I think, for any of us. I'm definitely not a professional at that one yet, so working on that one.
Yeah, right. But when we're once we were able to sit outside of it, even though you're in it, and looked at things from an objective point of view, it's easier to see things.
That's, I think, a huge key for all of us. It's been a huge key for me. Whenever I don't, and I'm just, you're stuck in the bubble of physical life. And
too close?
Yes. But to be able to pull back and look at it from just a slightly different perspective, it's an amazing way to perceive things and get a better grip on
it is
on how silly some things really are.
And that's awareness. As well, being able to step outside of it and say, oh, I see what's going on here.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, where am I causing this? Where's my part in this?
I've always got a part in it.
Yeah. Isn't life funny though? How we go through the process of all of these things, and how everything is tied together, and where you're given these opportunities to learn from, because you're given them all the time.
Oh yeah, it's constant. And even whenever I think, and you've probably sensed this too, I know I get to a place where even the successfully single, it's I'm feeling pretty good. It's I've learned a lot. I feel really confident about it. It's new one new wave crash. It's this is all new. Of
course.
Okay.
But how are you going to handle it based on what you've already experienced?
It's much better than it would at the beginning. So
yeah,
it's as long as you keep an open mind and know that it's always growth.
It's always growth, and everything happens for your benefit. Literally everything does. So when we're afraid of the future, really, what does it matter?
Yeah.
What does it matter what happens?
Well, we've all labeled what our the ultimate future would be, and it's usually some visualized form of a very successful actor or actress on in their mansion on a beach, and if we're not that, then we're failures. We're so susceptible to these ideas that help make us not feel successful, or like it does matter. What you're saying is very important, and it's from that other perspective. It's from a bigger picture perspective. What does the future hold? It's okay, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be what they show on the movies or on TV as perfection.
No, and that's being attached to the outcome.
Yes.
As well, this expectation that you've placed on yourself.
Right.
And there's a lot of factors in that. A lot of factors that you have no control over, and all you can do is control your thoughts and your actions. That is literally it.
Yeah.
You can't control anything outside of that.
Yeah.
So this is the way it must be. That's control. That is trying to control. And it's not going to show up the way that you think it's going to show up.
Maybe better.
Maybe better. Exactly. It might be way better than you ever thought it was.
Yeah.
You know, but it's letting go, like, and just doing it, you know, walking on that path.
Right.
And I'm good. Everything is good. Everything's going to work out.
Yeah, I love that.
Exactly how it's supposed to.
Yeah, that's really good.
You know, it's it can be challenging.
Oh, well,
but
I think one of the things I find an interesting balance in this whole growth and spiritual perspective is that you still need to feed and take care of your physical being, and that requires certain things that
disciplines.
Yeah, and attention being paid to it, focus being put on, where's the money going to come from for the groceries or the house bill or whatever. And those things, we can get buried into those, like, too close. We can get in the bubble and not be thinking outside of those and just be concerned with that and never get the chance to think about the bigger scheme, the bigger picture. And I think it's hard not to get stuck in that sometimes, even whenever you're on the path. And I think fear stems from that kind of focus.
Of course. You're focused on these negative things that you can have control over based on how you're thinking about things. But these storms that are in front of our face, as you're saying, are perspective. You're perceiving this as something that is negative rather than an opportunity to learn and grow from and move forward and do the crap you need to do to get it done.
Right.
Like, we all need to be vigilant at times to, get a path forward. Like, you need money, go do it.
Right.
Go get your money.
Yeah.
Make a change. Take care of yourself.
And that's one of the things that I think in my beginnings of searching through spirituality and maybe it stemmed from Christian teaching. I didn't grow up going to church. I went, a few times here and there with cousins and whatever. So I don't have like a deep understanding. I did go through some weekly study for a year and a half with a pastor to try to help figure things out before I'd gotten into spirituality. But there's always that discussion about spirituality and making money are two separate things, and how they make. But I mean, in that perspective, like, making money is evil, or
it's not. It's okay to have money.
And that is one thing that I found with bearing lightning in my later learning throughout spirituality is, like you said, you need money, go get it. You need to do this, go do it. It's not a big deal. It's part of the physical experience that you're in. It is. So, and I think that holds up a lot of people, though. There's, especially maybe here in the Midwest, where certain beliefs are pretty widespread.
Well, yes, absolutely, they are. But, like, as you do these things, like, you need money, the universe will provide you money. As long as you're doing it and not just sitting and saying, where's the money going to come from? Right. You need to take action on things. You can't just sit in one place and say, it'll all work out. You're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you've got to manifest it. You've got to do the work to get there.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that 100%. I do think, though, like you were talking about the higher self earlier and how it would be more direct and maybe not so nice. I also think that if we left it up to the higher self, like, walking through the desert for 40 days with just, an insect or two to eat here and there, you're alive, you're making it, keep learning. This is growth. I think that, that's also scary whenever you get into this. Like, I have a certain level of comfort that I like. I like to eat in a house and have a car to drive and whatever you think you want that you think is comfortable. And you think about the spirituals, like, you could, the extremists, like, you know what, that business didn't work out, and I had to, go into foreclosure and lost my house, but this is all a growth process. And
what did you learn?
Now I'm walking from here to California, and this is so important, and you don't know, but it's still, like, if you're used to, like, a certain level of comfort, and that's what you hold as your standard, there's going to be fear and losing it. And
of course.
That's, I think, a major thing to deal with in this physical experience.
If you want to change it, you can change it, though.
Right.
No matter what your circumstances are.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know, that's, if you don't try to change it, though, nothing's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
You know, there might be, you know, some lucky savior that comes in and, you know, but with the odds of that are very
well, and it's probably going to be last minute.
It's probably going to.
You're going to get all the opportunities in the world and time available to take care of it yourself before, you know,
disaster.
Yes, or before you get pulled out of the fire. And why go through all that?
Well, I mean, I went through a lot of that, you know, touching the fire. So why go through all that? Well, that's how I learned, Marcus. You know, so,
that wasn't a personal.
You know, but it really is like, man, it's so interesting when you think about things and how just everything works in conjunction with one another based on your beliefs. You know.
Yeah, it's all. Well, I think I mentioned the other day when we were at Kim Hayes, and I had listed out like 14 filters.
Yeah.
And that's just what I came up with off the top of my head that we look through and that we meet other people. If everybody had just 14, I'm sure there's more.
Sure.
That's 28 filters to get from one person to the next person.
Yeah.
That's, God, how many combinations there are to just deal with anybody in society or work with somebody or try to, you know, partner up with anybody. It's an immense amount of filters. There's
a ton of filters, but there doesn't have to be.
No, I'm just saying in general, like how we live life in a regular social standard.
You're talking about possible filters as well. You know, but they do exist.
Yes,
obviously.
Yeah. Well, it's what we've typically been set up with. There, you can add more, and if you are more awakened or more aware, you can reduce it and be
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when the more accepting you are, the less filters there are.
Yes.
You know,
of yourself and others.
Of yourself and others.
Yeah.
Through what you're talking about is communication. Is what you're talking about, right?
And that's communication through everything: how you dress, what you drive, how you look, how you interact with people, and
conduct yourself.
All the internal discussions as well,
and also, you know, the expectations, you know, that are placed on you by others, and how you're viewed, and like people can tell. Oh my gosh, authenticity is the biggest thing.
Oh, absolutely,
100%.
Yes.
You know, it's a measurable thing now, as I'm sure you know. Like authenticity, like the vibration of authenticity is like 7 times higher than the vibration of love. I heard.
I actually hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's a measurable thing. Like they did. I'm not specific. I can't be specific in what the study was, but they put groups of people together that, you know, and they were actually able to measure the vibrational level of authenticity, and it overarched the vibration of love like 7 times.
No kidding. That's super interesting.
Yeah. So, but you know, the exchange, like the energetic exchange of everything, you can tell when someone is like themselves.
Yeah.
Than when they're being themselves. You know.
Absolutely.
And you can tell when they're not.
Yeah.
As well. It's everything is a felt vibration. You just have to be conscious of it.
Right.
And people give off their signals as well when they're talking. Like they, you know, flail their arms when they're being dishonest, or they're, you know what I mean, or they change the inflection of their voice, or there's all these signs where people cannot, you know, hide when they're not being themselves.
Yes.
You know, when they're not being their authentic selves.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's usually something that drives me away from wanting to even have interactions with
as it should
somebody
be.
In that
they
way.
have a lesson to learn from that. You know, you don't have to entertain any of that stuff. If you do, you're choosing to do that and you're only trying to control something and hurting yourself in that process.
Yeah.
You know, you can step away. Like, I'm going to let that person be their dishonest.
Do their thing. Yeah.
Do their thing.
Yep, exactly.
You don't have to entertain it whatsoever. 100%. That's making a choice.
I think that is one of the most important and empowering ideas out of everything is you always have a choice. You don't have to engage. We often think we need to engage out of principle or my dignity or whatever.
I think it's about being right.
Yeah, and I want to be right or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you engage, you get to go down that and learn that same thing that the other person that you're going to engage with. You can avoid that if you'd like.
Yeah. You see how many things happen, though, like from from the standpoint of needing to be correct and needing to push your point of view and the way that you think onto somebody, it doesn't matter. If they're not going to hear it, they're not going to hear it.
Yes.
You know, they have to be in the place to be able to hear it and accept it. And so many times when we're trying to control that, I've found myself doing it at times in the past. And now I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Yeah. People will hear what they need to hear, you know, when they need to hear it. Yeah. I'm not going to come out here and da-da-da-da-da, you know, say this stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, my wife and I were talking about this last night, and it's about being open to where people are at, you know.
Accepting them.
Yeah, she had mentioned something, and she's like, you may or may not believe it. I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm totally on board. If that's what you feel, that is right where you should be. That's perfect. And I'm okay with whatever that is. But I think there's two different struggles with that. Out in society, there's like, you can't communicate with somebody who doesn't want to hear you. But then also there's the other extreme of being in a long-term relationship where you're living with somebody on a daily basis. And you go through cycles of like, I'm accepting. And then you go through times of frustration where you're trying to get the other person to understand like why I'm right or whatever. And
sure.
It's just like,
sure.
It's, you know, you still need to be able to pull back, because when you're in that day to day, you can get sucked into the focus that too deep and you're too close to it.
I agree. But that's also comes back to awareness, and your awareness will allow the other person to become aware.
Yes. Agreed.
As well.
Yep.
You know, so that communication can happen.
Absolutely. I think that it's just it's interesting that there are two extremes where there's awareness and openness. You still try to reach out to people on the outside. There's some, you know, you can run into some struggles, but it's the same even when you find somebody you're super close with. So
absolutely,
it can happen in both arenas.
Oh yeah. And then when you're telling you know, we do seek outside advice, which is okay, but actually all the answers based on what you've been through, like they're all inside of yourself, you know, literally. But I'm not saying it's bad to go seek advice or anything like that. It's great, because people do need advice because they haven't had this experience before. So how do I deal with this?
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
And when I've talked to other people about situations that I've been in, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I'm being like judged, basically, right. You know, for what's going on.
It always cracks me up when people have the answers.
Yeah. You know, like, I'm just like talking to you. I'm not like I'm just like trying to gain some perspective, not being like told what to do.
Mansplained.
Yeah. You know, but like some different, you know, point of view. But literally, and then I've found, you know, even through those conversations where it's just like, you know what, like I'm going to make my own decisions no matter what anyways. And it's good to get like options, you know, from other people, but like 9.5 times out of 10, it comes right back to the original thing that I thought in the first place. Yeah. You know.
Well, I think that's also, I think we all do that. I definitely do that. But I heard, it may have even been a movie. I can't remember the reference, but it was funny. It's like, Google is not an answer engine. It's a search engine. So whatever you're searching for, you're going to find support for whatever it is you feel. So if we already have something in mind, the way we think something could be or should be, or the direction we want to go, we'll find support for it. Talking to people, we'll find people who aren't on board. We'll usually dismiss those people. And we'll build support for our idea. So we just feel better about it, which if it's a good idea and it's going to help you grow your life, what's it hurt to get some support?
It doesn't.
No. But there's also the idea of, well, if you're being closed-minded and you're just getting people to support your idea, and I don't know what that could even be. I think, it was a comic that I heard, and he did a search for what he called "The Sun is Bullshit," and he did.
Okay.
And there actually were people out there who believed the sun wasn't real, and I'm not here to say it's real or not real, but the fact is you can find support for whatever idea that might be. So I think what you're started with and all the answers are inside of us is probably the key.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think we all have to even get there, to even realize that the answers are inside of you. First, there's awareness, and I think like you definitely have to go deep at some point in your life and like, get in that moment of despair and, to even come to a lot of these realizations and, go through that dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And stuff. And then realize through my process, it was realizing how connected I actually am, and that I am the universe, source, God, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's nice to hear somebody else say that.
Yeah. And because we are, and that's how everything is connected. I don't care what the hell we're talking about. Yeah. Everything is connected, and I think it's like I was saying, it's important to get there and go through those things so that you can come to your awareness and then you're able to trust and let go of everything, because you do know that all those answers are inside of yourself, and actually that's building your intuition throughout that process as well.
Absolutely. That was key for me, the intuition part and the connection. Yeah, I would, for me in that process, it's funny, it's just the shape of the condo that I happen to have down there, but there was a hallway, a big open living room, and then a kitchen that basically was a circle. And I walked like this trapezoidal path, just talking out loud to no one but the universe. And eventually I found that the answers that I did not come up with were coming to me. And I could decipher them by the fact that they would show up before I finished the question. And it's like, pow, like, I know the answer. Like,
yeah.
And it was an incredible revelation to actually be in touch with, that voice, that small voice.
And it doesn't have to be loud either.
It's not loud at all.
Yeah.
In fact, it's hard to be still enough to pay attention to it because it's so quick. And from what I gathered, it doesn't get repeated. You get one shot.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you about, my intuition at times too. Like I'm a talker. I'll talk out loud to myself here and stuff, and to be able to process things, because that is the best way that I can process is by talking out loud.
Same.
And and as you get in that flow of talking, like you end up saying the things like the answers to what you're questioning.
Yes.
And also even when my mouth is quiet and everything, like say, I've had soda in the fridge and I don't drink soda or anything, but there's then I have kombucha or whatever in there as well, where like I'll reach for the soda, but I know that's not what I actually want. And that intuition is like, no, like drink that instead. You know what I mean? And it's just listening to it in that moment. Like this goes to like questioning, is this what I'm about to do for my highest good?
Right.
And that's literally what you're asking yourself all the time.
I think that's somebody who's on a path of growth is asking themselves that all the time. I think so many of us are asking or not even asking, like, no, this is what I want to feel good. This is going to make me feel better because this is what I've seen on TV or, heard on the radio or seen somebody else doing. And I find there's a big disconnect if it's all we're worried about is, more comfort, more, this tastes amazing. I want cake or I want whatever, or soda, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That's a huge disconnect from the other question that you mentioned. Is this for my highest good? You're basically disconnected from the question of, is this for my higher good? Because you're basically, we're not worried about that right now.
No. And I used to eat a bunch of sweets and all that stuff, but then throughout the process, it's just like, this is like, no. You know what I mean? And like recognizing how that stuff made me feel and like, tired and sluggish and all those things. But when I'm putting all these good things in my body and taking care of myself, like how does that make me feel?
Right.
It makes me feel great.
Yeah.
My mind is clear. I can think, and have straight thoughts and, not be, in that place of, I just want to lay down.
Yeah. It's funny. I've looked, as much as I've looked for answers in psychology and philosophy and spiritual searching, I've also done the same for like looking for physical hacks, life hacks to, be more efficient at being healthy. And, I see things where, yeah, you can go and work out for 7 days a week, 3 or 4 hours a day if you want, but you can get, maybe you won't get to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you can be fit for a much shorter, efficient workout.
Oh yeah,
And
without putting all of that.
yes, without
Yeah.
making it a life,
I think that's like an addiction at that
yeah,
point.
it could be, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of my keys has been finding what is the most efficient way that I can do anything. And in this case, when I'm talking about like the physical body, but you were mentioning like the sluggishness and everything, and the industry where we have supplements and medicines, and it's so huge right now. And I think it's basically because we want our cake, literally, and eat it too.
It is.
We want to be healthy, so we like
Take these supplements.
I'm gonna eat all this, but I'm gonna take these supplements to overcome the I can't think clearly. I'm brain fog. I'm overweight or whatever.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
I'm just gonna take supplements to help. When really the core issue is a lot more simple. It's just
Eating
not
correctly.
as popular.
Yeah. Well, eating correctly. I mean, there's a lot of discipline in that.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of discipline in that because, like, look at what's all around us. Like, the garbage food is so abundant. You know,
yeah. It's literally 90% of probably what's out there.
Yeah, and you got to go look for the organic stuff. You got to go look for all the healthy stuff, and like look in the stores too, where the section of that stuff is how big.
Oh, right. It's tiny.
It's
size
tiny.
of this table. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. We're in these modes of like, this is how things are, right?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that.
Especially, if you grew up and that's all you knew. You went, your parents took you to McDonald's and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you venture out or talk to other people, then that's your norm. And I'm not saying like, McDonald's is the devil or anything. I'm just saying that there are healthier food options.
There are healthier food options, yeah.
And I think it's currently for me, I've been, whenever I was living alone, I got to maybe not, I wouldn't necessarily call it extreme, but a very healthy diet. And I was very strict about it. And then being in a relationship, it's kind of, I've softened more to where, I'll enjoy the occasional treat here or there or whatever, but I also still have this general foundation of trying to eat healthy. So a balance of both. I don't know that I'm, I see depictions of, the most enlightened, not even needing food or water, eventually. And I definitely am not near that end, but I think there's still growth.
Yeah. Like, I've definitely changed my diet. There's growth in all of it, I've definitely changed my diet to the point where, like, I only eat when I'm hungry. Like, I don't just eat to eat.
I actually, it's almost a cumbersome event for me to have to eat sometimes because I'm like, I just don't.
I'm good.
I eat because I have to eat.
Yes. Like, there are times throughout a day where I have a handful of almonds, and that's what I ate for the day. And it's not like I'm starving or anything. Like, I'm good.
Right.
And, plenty of water. Like, water is...
key
for just everything. And then the amount of everything is about oxygen too, and like how everything flows in your body, because the more oxygen you take in, the more water you drink, right? The more connected you are, at least in my experience.
Sure.
And the more conscious, the easier it is to be conscious of things.
That is interesting. I find if I'm not paying attention or I'm stressed out, my breaths are very shallow, if they're even existent.
Yeah, very.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm even breathing. And it was funny. Even my son, he had mentioned probably a couple of years ago. We were sitting together. It wasn't even a stressful time. And he's like, "Hey, don't forget to breathe." I'm like, "That's a weird thing for you to say." Like, wow. Okay. Hey.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. That was weird.
Yeah.
But it was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. He was supposed to remind you in that moment.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And like also like with what I put in my body with like the high antioxidant stuff that we eat, or like pomegranates and blueberries and all those good things, that those enrich your oxygen levels in your body as well. Whatever you can do to amplify the level of oxygen that's going through your body, it heals you. It does everything that it needs to do for you.
Exactly.
And so as long as you're putting these good things in your body, you don't need to eat all the time. You don't need to do any of this stuff. It's programming. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
what we think that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
3 square meals a day or whatever.
You're actually...
Breakfast is the most important. Like,
I never...
I'll usually fast until noon.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it works perfectly well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, man, this has been like a great conversation.
Good. Yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
We do a card pull at the end here, So whatever comes out, I'm sure it'll resonate.
Yeah.
Because that's how this always works.
Just do one card.
Just do one card and then read whatever that is out of the book there.
Okay. 49.
What is
Talisman.
Talisman.
A lesson truly learned is crystallized as earned wisdom. You have all you need for the success you seek. Can you read it all, or just
you can part? If you want. Like,
upright wisdom allows you to recognize traps on the road and familiar patterns that you want to avoid. Interesting. Yeah. It also enables you to quickly gather information about where you are on your journey. It helps you recognize your allies and know how to find the best routes along the way. Now you're at a place where you know the right things to do and the best choices to make. You really can't commit a mistake. Whatever your inquiry, great fortune awaits you, for you have the wisdom to arrive at the right decision. You've learned your lessons and earned the right to your success.
That has a lot to do with what we were talking about.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's perfect.
Interesting.
Right?
I never knew. I've heard of the word talisman, but never looked what it means.
Yeah, me neither.
I
never knew what it meant either.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Well, again, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Everything. This is great.
Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome. So this has been Spiritual AF. I'll see you next time, and namaste.